Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my top 20 horror films part 4. That is right guys, this is the last installment of the top 20. Going to be talking about numbers 5 through numero uno today. Yeah man, it's been a good series. I'm really proud of how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I've said before in the previous ones, if you have not yet, go ahead and head back on the channel and watch the previous installments before watching this one, if you got the time. I know these videos can run a little long, but yeah, man, I've really enjoyed this deal. I'll give you a little heads up right now. After this video is up, the plan is to take a little bit of a break. I just got some medical stuff I gotta take care of. Some things that need to get, all done and dusted. Real life is a bitch sometimes, and it can get in the way of the creative juices. But, just some minor medical stuff. Nothing serious. I'm okay. But yeah, I just want to focus on that stuff. I don't want to half-ass any videos or throw something up without putting my all into it. And yeah, man, so I don't want to spend too long talking about that. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into number 5. Let's do it. Alright, let's kick things off right with The Shining, man. Not too long ago, I reviewed this movie in full, and if you want to go ahead and go back and listen to that on the channel, you can. But just to give a little brief rundown, number 5 on the top 20 list for me. And, these bottom 5, or not bottom 5, the top 5 was pretty difficult in certain spots, and this was rough to rank, man, but this is where it lands. And I gotta say, dude, The Shining, it's a fucking masterpiece. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not believe in a perfect movie. I don't think that's out there. I think you can always pick some little rinky-dink thing here or there. But damn, dude, this is as close as we will ever fucking get to like a perfect fucking movie. This and a couple other things, but The Shining is one of them. I think the world of this fucking movie, dude. Everything from the setting that we are in with the Overlook Hotel, and again, the performances from Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, and young Danny. All of it, man. It's just, it all just makes so much sense. This movie just gels perfectly. It's a long one. It is a long one for sure, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't feel too drawn out. There's always something interesting happening on screen. And that's one thing that I really, really enjoy about this movie, amongst so many other things, is that every time I watch this movie, there will always be a scene that stands out amongst the others that on the previous viewing it didn't. It was just another scene. I kind of let it go by, and on another watch around I'll be like, oh my god, that was fucking incredible. And like, obviously everything in this movie is, but it's like I'll always get something new out of this movie. Like, there's always something new to enjoy. I know the movie pretty damn well by this point. I've seen it enough times, but goddamn, dude, this movie just does it right. Stanley Kubrick's a fucking legend. Obviously, amazing story by Stephen King. I have so many good things to say about this flick. I really, really enjoy this one. Another big thing I like about this movie is the characters. We go, obviously, from Jack Torrance being what I would argue is the main character of the movie. The way this movie handles that character and his just slow descent into madness, and you can already tell something's a little fucked up with him, but he's not, like, he's fine. He's hanging in there, recovering alcoholic. He's a little on edge, you get it. But just this place and this environment just slowly starts to deteriorate his brain, and props to Jack Nicholson for such an amazing job playing this role. I know some people are like, oh, he's overacting, and yet shit on that, man. I think he's fucking great in this. Another person who's really fucking good in this, and I don't hear people talking about enough when they talk about this movie, is Shelley Duvall. I think Shelley Duvall is fucking incredible in this movie. She sells terror so well. Like, there's something about that character. She just does such a fucking great job in this movie. So props to Shelley Duvall, man. She's awesome. Young Danny does a terrific job. You can't, especially at this time, it's difficult to ask a lot from child actors. You know, I have my feelings on how, you know, people will judge a child and acting in a movie, but Danny fucking kills it, man. Like, Danny just, that character plays such a pivotal role in this movie, and I credit him with making this movie work just as much as I would Jack Nicholson or Shelley Duvall. I just think he's fucking great. And yeah, man, I don't want to ramble too long, but The Shining, man, just fucking rules, dude. On to the next one. All right, and now we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Holy fuck. Believe it or not, I've never talked about this movie on the channel before, and there's good reason for that. You know, I'm maybe planning a series review here in the near future. But, and we'll get all into the nitty-gritty of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre there. I'm very much so in danger of rambling. I noticed with movies that I haven't talked about on the channel yet, with this top 20, I will ramble about a lot because I've never gotten to talk about it with you guys. But moving on. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, dude. I think something that is so fucking rad about this movie is the hype behind it. And the fact that this movie, and you know, horror movies have been banned all over the place. There's so many that have been, but there's something about this one, just with the story of it, it's just so fucking, it's so rad to me, man. I think people, it's one of those movies that people hype up in their heads so much because they hear so much fucked up shit about it, and rightfully so. It's a it's a fucked up movie. There's no doubt about it. But I remember I was one of those kids, you know, you hear so much about this. Oh, it's so fucking bloody and gory and disturbing and just fucked up. And then you sit down and watch it, and something that immediately stuck out to me was there's no blood in this movie. I mean, there's blood in the movie, but it's like, it's barely any. Like, barely. It's so fucking crazy to me how, and props to Tobe Hooper for this, it's so amazing that he is able to, I'm always of the opinion that less is more. You know, if you utilize terror correctly, you don't need a lot of blood. You don't need a lot of guts. And this is one of the prime examples of that. You know, there's scenes of Leatherface, like, he has the chick on the meat hook and he's chopping the dead dude up on the table. And you don't see any of it. You don't see him sawing into his head or, you know, cutting his limbs off or anything like that. You just see him with that saw, just almost like, I don't want to say gleefully, but just hacking away at this dude. And you see the look on the girl's face and just how fucking terrified she is. And I think scenes like that, and among other scenes in the movie, it constructs an image in your brain. And people saw this for the first time in theaters, having no context, knowing nothing about it. And they were convinced that they just saw the most fucked up movie in their life. Like, the most fucked up piece of film in their entire life. So it got banned everywhere, churches shunned it, and it just became an infamous film. And I respect it so much for that. I love movies like that. The next one on our list actually has a very similar story to this one. I would argue even more infamous than this, but I mean, that alone fascinates me about this movie. But the movie itself is fucking really good. You know, like I said, I can respect this movie. I'm a blood and guts guy. I fucking love that shit. But I respect the hell out of a filmmaker who is able to pull that fear out of you without utilizing that stuff necessarily. Bravo. The other big thing that I really, really like about this movie is the Sawyer family. I love that dynamic. I think they're so fucked up and scary as shit. I just think they're terrifying. And I want to talk in particular about Leatherface. Now, to me, Leatherface is, well, first of all, he's one of my favorite slashers of all time. And I have to, state my reason why, obviously. I think Leatherface is such a compelling villain because he's not like Jason and he's not like Michael. He's not like Freddy. He's very, very unique. He's a very unique character in the way that, he is, I will use the term, disabled. He is a mentally disabled person. And so, you could argue about how that subject matter is handled in the movie. I know people have some problems with it, but, it is what it is. I'm sure if they had a time machine, they'd go back and handle it better, but it's a product of its time. Sorry. But, so you have this character who, he's a brute. He's a huge dude, very strong, but he cannot take care of himself. He is not independent whatsoever. He is very, very codependent. And something I love the relationship he has with his brothers. It's fucked up. It's sad, really. But his brothers are really the true villains of this movie. And I like that they kind of explore that in the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but we'll talk about that another time. I like the idea that if he wasn't around these fucking maniacs, he would have a fighting chance of having a relatively normal life, as normal as you can within those circumstances that he's in. But he doesn't, because he's related to these fucking fucked up Sawyers. And yeah, man, and he's doing their bidding, and they're making him do things that you can tell he doesn't want to do. Like, he's not, I don't think it justifies what he does, because he straight up fucking kills the shit out of people in this movie. But it's like, you can tell he's just scared. Like, he's just I've heard him described as a wounded predator. And I feel like that is a very, very great way of describing the Leatherface character. He's in defense mode. These kids are breaking into his house, and in his mind, he's just protecting his family. That's all he's doing, and feeding them as well. But, and there's a scene, it's my favorite scene in the movie. Or my favorite shot at least, where he's just in the window and he's just like doing this, and he's just so fucking stressed. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on. His brothers are nowhere in sight, so he doesn't have anyone to go off of. He's literally a scared predator. And I think that character is so interesting, because it's so unique to like a Jason or a Michael. I think the Leatherface character and the Sawyers as a whole really, really make this movie work. I just did like a mini review for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We will 100% do a full-length Texas Chainsaw review at some point. But for right now, baby, I think we should probably get into the next one. Let's do it. Happy Easter, everyone. Let's talk about The Exorcist. But yeah, man, what a fucking movie, dude. I kind of hinted that this was going to be the next entry when talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, talking about how this one got banned fucking everywhere. And yeah, when you watch this movie, you fucking understand why. And the first thing I want to talk about that I don't think I really did when talking about it for my review, big props to the filmmakers for having the fucking brass balls to do some of the things they did in this fucking movie. Oh my God. I don't think it's a stretch to say that, and I'm not going to act like religion isn't a prominent part of our society still to this day. But back then, it was just more of a taboo to tackle subject matter like this. And when you have, a mutilated statue of Mother Mary, and you have I think it's Mother Mary. I'm pretty sure it is in the movie. Yeah, it's Mother Mary. But you have, like, a mutilated statue of Mother Mary, and you have Reagan, obviously possessed by Pazuzu at this point, you know, shoving a crucifix, you know the rest, and so many other fucking crazy things. A lot of crazy religious imagery in this movie. That is, you know, you could argue if it's tasteful or not, but props, man. That takes fucking balls, especially back then. I mean, people will still get offended about that shit now, but back then, oh my god, dude, this movie got banned everywhere. And, you know, obviously that would come with a fair amount of stress if you're the filmmaker, but at the same time, at least from what from an outside perspective, it's kind of neat, you know, like, being able to get under people's skin that much with a movie that they see fit to ban it is just hilarious to me, but also very commendable, because as a horror artist, that's a big reason why you do what you want, right? Bleh. It's a big reason why you do what you do, is to get under people's skin, and this movie does it better than pretty much any. People still call this the scariest horror film of all time, and I don't blame them, because it is. Another thing I want to talk about with this movie is the fucking style of it, dude. This movie is just dripping in style. Probably my favorite scene of the movie is when the two priests, yeah, when they go into the room to perform the exorcism, and now Reagan is just full on Pazuzu. Like, she's all cut up and scarred up, and her hair's all mangy, and she's still wearing that, like, angelic white nightgown. It's such a fucking great costume design for that character. Mwah! You know, that character scared the fuck out of me when I was a kid. Like, I've told the story before. I refused to watch this movie when I first got into horror. I was like, nope, not doing it. No fucking way. And then finally, when I got into, like, high school, I was like, you know what? I better watch it. And it immediately became one of my favorite movies. But anyways, ADHD brain. When they go into the room and just the way it's lit, and it's like there's a fog on the ground, and it's just so cold, and they can immediately see their breath, and Reagan's just sitting there, and phenomenal performance as well. You know, she's like, what a lovely day for an exorcism. And like, it's just so fucking, it's rad, man. This movie's so fucking good. Obviously plenty of other standout scenes. Everyone talks about the spider walk, going down the stairs. All of the medical shit early on in the movie when the mother's trying to, like, figure out what's wrong with Reagan, and, like, all that shit's, like, to me is like, it's like just as scary as the demonic shit. Yeah, I'll demons all day, needles. Oof. Not one of my typical phobias, but this movie just does it in a very, very gross way, you know. And it's so great, man, because this movie still has that aura around it. It's like my fiance's mother, who I love very dearly, sweet lady, and I'll talk to her, and she's obviously like, when she learned I was all in the horror, which she's like okay with it, like, but she's not like into it really. But this is her scary movie. Like, this is like her, like, nope, like, no way. And I've watched some stuff with her half of the family, and they've enjoyed it. But I'll keep bringing it up to her. I'm like, do you want to watch The Exorcist? And she's like, I gotta think about that, man. Like, and it's like that for a lot of people, dude. Like, a lot of people still refuse to watch this movie, either again or just in general. And any scary movie that can do that to people without them having even seen the fucking thing, that's props. But yeah, man, I'm in danger of rambling. We've already gone on for 7 minutes. I fucking love The Exorcist. Go ahead and go check out the review of it. And let's go ahead and get on into number 2. That's right, baby. Let's do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, number 2, we have The Thing. You know, when I talk to people and I ask, you know, because they'll inevitably ask me what my favorite horror movie is, and I always say what the number 1 spot is, and anyone who's been watching me for any length of time already knows what the number 1 spot's going to be. But I've always said, if, you know, I get to this point in the conversation, because typically they're like, oh, you do YouTube for horror, what's your favorite horror movie? And then they just kind of skirt off to something else. But in the rare instances where we get pretty far in that conversation, I'll always say that blah, blah, blah is my favorite horror movie of all time, but The Thing is, like, right there. Like, this is my favorite, and then The Thing is, like, right there. It's so fucking close. To me, this movie does horror right. I feel like everything you need in a horror movie, not need, but everything you need to make a perfect horror movie, this film has. The setting. The setting is fucking terrifying in and of itself. The Antarctic. Something about being isolated around all this. I hate fucking snow. I hate snow. I hate cold. I live in Missouri, so I'm kind of fucked. But I hate the cold. I despise it. So maybe it's like a thing with me, but anyone I've talked to, you know, they all feel the same. Fuck cold weather. I hate it. But yeah, man. So the setting alone is fucking chilling. No pun intended. Then you get to inside, like, the little base and stuff. And it's a very isolated environment. It is very claustrophobic. Obviously, they have places they can go, and they have their own space. It's not like a little cramped area, but it's still isolated. Because you're out in the middle of a snow desert, basically. You have no contact with anybody else except for the people you are with, besides, like, a radio. And that's it. And that's where you are. And they're there doing scientific research or whatever. So to have that environment, and then to drop what, in my opinion, is easily one of the best ideas for a horror movie monster of all time, to drop that in that setting, take my fucking money, dude. The Thing is, I've said it before, my favorite movie monster of all time is the Alien. Easy. Easy, no fucking doubt in my mind as far as design goes, premise, all of that. I fucking love the Alien. This is right up there. I think The Thing is such an ingenious horror movie monster. Obviously, this is, you know, it's not an original idea. This is technically a remake, but the way that this film takes it, it takes an idea that was kind of, like, rough, I'll say, and then just perfected it and made it so fucking gold. You have this creature that you never really get to see the full, and you never get to see it, really. All you know is that this creature is capable of 99.99% replicating any living being it sees fit. It kills the original and then takes its spot. And when you are isolated, and it's obviously very, very violent as well. So you have this isolated environment with all of these, I would say, pretty rugged individuals. And then they discover that at any point, any of them can burst out into some terrifying, horrifying beast and just fucking demolish another person and consume them, or whatever you want to say. That's a perfect horror film. I don't know how you get better than that with the combination of sci-fi and horror. I said previous, Alien is a perfect combo of sci-fi and horror, and there's only one other one to do it better than that, and it's fucking this. I just don't get how you get better than that. But anyways, we go off of that. The characters in this movie are fucking fantastic. Obviously, Kurt Russell being the lead character of this movie. But everyone else in this film is so fucking memorable. Like I said, when you have, like, unique, compelling characters that are all given their own personalities and their own things to do and their own things to say, it sounds stupid to say that, but there are a lot of horror movies that just have cut and paste fucking people and they drop them in there and they get killed. No, every single person in this film you can get invested in some way. And when they inevitably end up dying, or worse in this case, they end up splitting themselves in half and you realize they're the thing, there's so much gravity to it now, and there's so much weight, and the danger of the thing is so fucking potent. It's incredible. But yeah, man, these characters all just clash with one another. You know, guys are getting locked in a shed out in the cold because they think they're the thing, and yeah, multiple things. People are being held at gunpoint, you know. Obviously, the scene with the Petri dish test is probably my favorite scene of this whole movie, which is hard to say because this whole movie fucking rules. And I'm debating actually watching it when I get done with this fucking video. But God, dude, this movie just does it all right. I fucking love this movie. My number one is my number one, but if anyone were to say that this is their number one of all time, well, and really, if anyone says any horror film is their number one of all time, I'm not going to judge you. But, you know, I often question myself. And I'm like, number one is my number one, and I'll never subside on that. I don't think there's ever going to be a movie that can top my number one, but every time I get done watching The Thing, it's the only movie where I'm like, is this my favorite? And, you know, I'll always quickly go back to, nah, Halloween. Ooh. Fuck. Whatever. I'll be like, no, you know, this is my favorite, but there's always that little voice in the back of my head. Not the other ones, but this one. And I'll be like, is that my favorite? I think that says a lot about The Thing. But anyways, moving on to the number one spot that I totally just fucking gave away as if it wasn't already obvious. Oh, I almost had you. Ah, man, come on. Obviously, it's Halloween, the original, the OG, 1978. Let's fucking get real. In other news, the sky is blue and tigers don't make the best house pets. I feel like anyone who knows me or knows my channel would have been able to fucking deduce this. I mean, it's been right next to my fucking head this whole series, and for a lot of time on the channel, at least since I've moved into this room. And yeah, dude, what can I really say that I haven't already said? It's my favorite fucking horror movie of all time, and there are plenty of reasons for this. I've delved into a lot of that. I did a damn near hour-long review of this on the channel already. That was a little while back. If you want to go back to review number 31 on the channel. But, you know, it boils down really to two things. No, three things that really define this movie as my favorite. You know, negating the obvious nostalgia and just how fucking iconic and classic this movie is, and the fact that it, you know, it gives me butterflies, man, every time I watch this movie and I hear that score that plays at the beginning and I see all the iconic scenes. It just, this horror movie makes me feel a certain kind of way that no horror film has really ever been able to make me feel. A lot of them have come close. Obviously, The Thing is a big one, The Exorcist, any one of the top 5, really. But there's just something about this movie that just clicks with me, dude. And I'll get into a little bit of that here. Big thing from a art standpoint. Very simple premise. You know, there's nothing... This movie is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, you could say that because a lot of people regard this as the first slasher, which is bullshit. But Uh, but yeah, the premise is not all that mind-blowing or anything like that, but it's the execution of all of it. The style. Obviously, I didn't even give props to John Carpenter when talking about The Thing. Obviously, he, you know, did The Thing and did Halloween as well. Which I guess would make John Carpenter my favorite horror filmmaker of all time. It's, well, my favorite filmmaker of all time. It's him and Tarantino. I can't really decide which one I like more. I lean, you know, one way either any day. I don't fucking know. But props to fucking John Carpenter nonetheless, because holy fuck, man, he takes a premise that on the surface is so easy. Killer or psychotic killer escapes from a mental asylum and stalks babysitters and kills them. I mean, it's nothing mind-blowing, but the way, the style of this movie, dude, there's shots in this film that just stick with you. And, you know, we'll get into Michael Myers himself, but the way this movie is shot and the way it's directed and the writing, there's just something that feels so homey about this movie to me. You know, obviously the shot of Michael walking across the street and just getting closer and closer and closer and closer. It's so fucking scary. Scene of him sitting up behind Lori. Obviously him creeping out of the darkness in that one scene. All of it, dude. I could go on all day. But I don't want to, because I don't want to keep you here longer than this video is already going to be. But, but nah, man. There's something about the style of this film that just sets it apart from everything else. You know, there's been plenty of slashers, plenty of, you know, crazy guy in a mask killing people, but there's just something about Halloween that just does it better than any of them. And I'll take that to the grave, dude. Honestly, I will. But with that being said, we have to talk about the shape that really binds this movie together and really makes this film work, and that's Michael Myers. You know, again, simple premise. Maniac who escaped from a mental asylum. And it would be so easy to just make him this kooky, crazy guy running around in a mask. But what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill did was they made this cold, emotionless, persistent, evil fucking character in Michael Myers. And the most compelling thing about him is that there's no explanation. Just a 6-year-old kid who just, for no fucking reason. I know movies later on in the series try to explain it and do a poor job of it, and Michael Myers does not need an explanation. And I really hope with Halloween Ends coming up that they don't try to do that. You don't have to do that. We don't need a reason for why he is the way he is. That's what makes him so fucking scary. The idea that any normal kid can just be living his life and then all of a sudden, one Halloween night, just boom. That's terrifying. That's fucking scary. Because it could be anyone. It could be anyone you know, anyone. The setting of this movie, the fact that it takes place in just a nice little calm residential suburb, you know? Doesn't take place in a... doesn't take place in a spooky forest or a haunted house or an abandoned insane asylum or nothing like that. It takes place at home. And that, you know, that's fucking frightening, dude. And it's one of the first movies that really said, hey, evil can be anywhere. You don't have to go to some spooky location to find evil. Evil could be in your back fucking yard. That's scary. And, you know, the way this movie ends with the idea that he's still out there and he could be anywhere. So watch your fucking back. And the movie ends on that. I could talk all day about this fucking flick, dude. I really could. Halloween is horror done right. And it's the measuring stick for me. And if I see a horror movie that really, really just fucking blows my balls off, and I'm just like, oh my God, this was fucking incredible. Which there's so much incredible horror out there. There really is. Like, there's so much just fucking great stuff out there. And there's so many films that didn't make this list, like The Omen or Reanimator or any of the other George Romero zombie movies, and I could go down the fucking list. There's so many that didn't make this list that are fucking perfection, and I fucking love them. Perfection used loosely, obviously. But I'll watch these movies, and there'll always be that little voice in my head where I'm like, okay, is it better than Halloween? And I'll be honest, there are times where I'd have to sit there and think about it for a second. But it would only be a couple seconds, because then I'll think about Dr. Loomis, and I'll think about Laurie Strode, and I'll think about the shape, and the story, and the way this movie's done. And I'm just like, no. No, it's not. Not to me, you know. And obviously there are films that do things better than Halloween does them, but at the end of the day, it's all of that plus the inspiration. You know, this movie was not done with a lot of money. It was not done with a lot of studio backing, or there was... This movie was an underdog, dude. This is an underdog film. You know, it was made for like $300-something thousand, which is nothing, even by standards then. But this movie took a shoestring budget, and it became a phenomenon. And as someone who is attempting to make it in the, you know, film world, mainly film criticism with Days of Darkness, I acknowledge, you know, I don't have a big budget. I'm sitting here on my iPhone and writing on a fucking pen pad and paper, and I'm using iMovie to edit. You know, I don't have a lot, dude. I don't. Are there things I could be doing better? Sure. But I'll hear people, and they'll say, you need more money behind your channel. You need more this. You need more that. And I'll doubt myself sometimes. I'll be honest. I'll doubt it. I'm like, you know, am I putting enough behind this? But I look at, you know, the heart and the drive that the people who made Halloween, I'll look at that. And I'll be like, I'm doing fine. I'm doing A-okay. And yeah, man, Halloween's an inspiration. That's a big reason why it's my favorite of all time. Because I can see something that shouldn't have made it, but it did. And I look at that, and then I look at this channel here, and I look at all the people who are supporting me. And it boosts my confidence. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make it. One day. One day. Without further ado, we got very sentimental at the end here, didn't we? Without further ado, though, guys, thank you for sticking with me throughout this series. It's been awesome getting to talk about my favorite horror movies of all time. Obviously, capping it off with my favorite horror movie of all time. And yeah, dude, it's been fucking rad. Like I said, I will be taking a little bit of a break. Not going to be gone too long. Just medical shit, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, man. So without further ado, happy Easter weekend. Thank you, as always, for supporting this. And, you know, I'll always say this, and I drone on about it, but I'm serious. Thank you, seriously, for sticking throughout these videos and listening to some dickhead talk about horror movies. I appreciate it. I really, really do. So, corniness aside, enjoy the rest of your weekend. My DOD family, take care of each other, and keep watching horror. All right, guys. Have a good day.